In Chapter 12 of the Texas Penal Code, the state lines out its classification of offenses. And you can see right here in Section 12.02, classification of offenses, that offenses are either designated as felonies and misdemeanors. So we're going to differentiate between those two terms. And these are probably terms that you've heard before. You probably have a good idea of which is more serious. So in Texas, we have a total of 8 classification or levels of offense. 3 of those are classified as misdemeanors, and you can see them here in 1203, Class A, Class B, and Class C. Misdemeanors are typically considered minor offenses or less serious offenses, and for the most part, as a generic definition, we would say include imprisonment up to 1 year in a county jail. And Texas is going to be pretty close to that. Some states might vary a little bit. That is, again, just a generic definition. So again, Class A, Class B, and Class C. We can skip the felony part and go to subchapter B, and it shows you the punishment available for a Class A misdemeanor. Could include a fine not to exceed $4,000 or confinement in a jail not to exceed 1 year. So again, Texas kind of fits that generic definition, up to a year in a county jail. A Class B misdemeanor has a smaller fine or a smaller maximum on its fine, $2,000 maximum, and then confinement in jail not to exceed 180 days, which is roughly 6 months. And you can note on both, Section 3 on each of those includes a provision for both confinement and jail. So it's not an either or, it could be an and, fine and jail time. And then in 1223, you can see a Class B misdemeanor currently is a non-jailable offense with a punishment that includes fine only, not to exceed $500. So a $500 maximum fine, and you can even see up in the classification section, classification of or conviction of a Class C misdemeanor does not impose any legal disability or disadvantage. Then we move on to the felony. So misdemeanors are considered minor or less serious offenses, which leaves felonies as the more serious offenses. And there we have in Texas 5 classifications of felony. We have capital felonies, felonies of the first, second, third degree, and then we have what we call a state jail felony. If we skip down past the misdemeanor stuff we already looked at, we have a subchapter C is the ordinary felony punishments, and we're not going to talk a lot about the specifics, but capital felonies either come with life in prison or the death penalty. There's a lot of this language has to do with if you're 18 years or under the age of 18 when you commit your offense, you can't be sentenced automatically to life in prison without the possibility of parole or death. So there's a provision in here for if you're under the age of 18. But typically we're just going to look at capital felonies is either life in prison without parole or the death penalty. First degree felony, and you can see, I'll just go ahead and sum this up for felonies, all of them. First, here's second, third, and state jail. I believe there it is right there. All come with a maximum $10,000 fine. And again, just like the misdemeanors, it could be and a fine, not just a fine or imprisonment. It could be both. So the imprisonment term for felonies as a generic definition would be more than a year of incarceration, and that incarceration would take place in either a state or a federal penitentiary, a prison, not a jail, but a prison. So Texas's first degree felony has a minimum term of confinement of 5 years and a maximum term of confinement of 99 years or life. So 5 to 99 years for a second degree felony, a maximum of 20 years, a minimum of 2 years, so 2 to 20. And then a third degree felony is a maximum of 10 years and a minimum of 2 years, so 2 to 10. And then for state jail felonies, we have an individual not to exceed 2 years or less than 180 days. So this is a little bit different compared to that generic definition. Texas operates these state jails. They are not operated at the local level like a county jail. Really, for all intents and purposes, this would be considered a prison. It operates more like a prison than it would a jail, but we have this kind of special classification of felony known as the state jail. So you could spend 6 months in a jail if you are convicted of a state jail felony. There's some more information in this chapter. If you're interested, you can go through and read exceptional sentences or repeat habitual offender punishments and things like that. But that's the gist. Felonies versus misdemeanors are the major classifications of criminal offenses. Misdemeanors are minor offenses that generally carry up to a year of incarceration in a jail, and felonies are more serious offenses that carry incarceration periods of more than a year in a state or federal prison.